It's snowing where I live right now. And what's the best thing that you want to eat on a snowy, cold day? Something spicy, of course. So today we're making penne all'arrabbiata, and it's a spicy red sauce pasta. It's Italian, it's delicious, and I just want to jump right in. So stay tuned and see how I make it. You need a quarter of an onion, garlic, tomato paste, whole canned tomatoes, preferably San Marzanos, basil, Parmesan cheese, salt, pepper, and olive oil, oregano, and red pepper flakes. Now that you know all of the ingredients you need, let's get started with chopping up a quarter of an onion. I'm using yellow today, but you could use whatever onion you have around. And you're gonna wanna chop this onion up really fine. Now let's slice up the garlic cloves. And I have a couple big pieces of garlic and then a bunch of tiny ones. So this is your preference. I love garlic, so I'm using a lot. And just get the little wrappers off. And if you're having a hard time getting the wrappers off, I kind of just like to twist it a little bit. Like so, and they come off pretty easy. The other way you could do it is just mush it down with something heavy and it kind of cracks the wrapper, and you could kind of get it off pretty easy that way as well. Once you got all that nasty wrapper off, we're just gonna thinly slice the garlic. And you kind of make them into garlic little chips there. And we're just gonna do that to all of the garlic pieces. And for this, we're gonna add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil here. And this pan is on medium low. And add the onion. We're not gonna add the garlic right now because the garlic will burn before the onion gets translucent, and we don't want that, so we're gonna hold off on the garlic for now. The onion should take about 10 minutes to cook until they're nice and soft, and then we're gonna go ahead and add that garlic. So once you have the onions in the pan and they're all cooking away, we could start off with the tomatoes. So I'm gonna open up this can, and this is the San Marzano tomatoes, and these are from Italy, and they're whole tomatoes in this jar. And if you can't find the ones from Italy at your grocery store, just get like whatever you can find whole tomatoes. They have a lot of San Marzano style tomatoes from America, and it just means that they're not grown in Italy. So in Italy, the soil has volcanic ash in it, and it makes the tomatoes a little bit unique, but I think they're just as good from America. In fact, the ones that I grow in my garden, San Marzanos from my garden, I actually think taste better than a canned one, but that's because they're fresh. So I'm just gonna open up this can, and we're just gonna pour all of the tomatoes into a bowl. Dump out all the sauce as well. And you see how they're whole tomatoes? And what we're gonna do is just smush them in our hands. And this is really fun If you have kids, I'm sure they would love this part. You just have to crush them down and get them all mushed up in there. And now we're gonna go ahead and add the sliced garlic to the pan. And stir it around and get it all coated in the olive oil and cook this up until it's nice and soft as well. And be sure you do not burn the garlic. You do not want burnt garlic in an Italian recipe. Now that the garlic is starting to get soft, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons, yes, 2 tablespoons of red pepper flakes. And if you aren't into a lot of spice, I just suggest adding maybe 1 tablespoon. Usually for this marinara sauce, like a regular style marinara sauce, I just add a little pinch, but this is a spicy marinara sauce. So we're adding a lot of spice. And the reason that we're putting it in now is because you want the heat to kind of bring out all those flavors. And if you're wondering, Arrabbiata actually means angry in Italian. So it's an angry sauce. So you want those pepper flakes. Now that the red pepper flakes have been in there for a minute, we're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And I like to add tomato paste because I just like a very thick, tomatoey flavored sauce. You don't have to add it. It's actually not traditional to add the tomato paste, but I like to add it. All right, now that that paste is kind of melted in there, we're gonna go ahead and add all the sauce. And give it a nice stir around here. Get all those flavors mixed together really well. At this point, we're gonna add a couple pinches of salt. We're also gonna add a bunch of grinds of fresh pepper here. And then I'm gonna do a few pinches of oregano. And we also need the basil. So I'm a basil-y girl. So I like a lot of basil. So I'm probably gonna use a lot. And I just like to hand tear it. Well, let's mix this around first. Let's mix all the seasoning in here. And then I'm gonna take the basil and I'm just gonna hand tear it. And we're not gonna mix the basil in, we're just gonna leave it on top to perfume the sauce for now. And you wanna get the sauce up to a simmer. And we're gonna let this simmer here. You could eat it after about 30 minutes, but I like to let mine simmer for about an hour before I actually eat it. I just want to say my recipe is not super traditional in the fact that a lot of people use Italian parsley instead of basil. But I like basil any day over parsley, so that's what I like to use. And it's just a quick, easy sauce. So at this point, it's been about a half an hour. And now I'm gonna add some parm. So I'm gonna cut off a chunk of this parm. So this is about, I don't know, 1.5 inch, 2 inch chunk of parm. And then I'm just gonna cut that in half. And I'm actually gonna stick both chunks in the pasta sauce. And I'm just gonna let that cook for another half an hour, and that parm melts in there and crumbles apart, and it just, you need a little bit of dairy in this sauce just to counteract all that spice. It's just more balanced when you add the parm. Also, the parm gives it a nice umami flavor, and umami is so good. I love umami. It's like savory deliciousness. So now that the sauce is done almost, well, you can eat it right now, but I still need to make my pasta. So I got a pot of water here, and I'm gonna add a generous amount of salt. You always want to salt your pasta water, especially for Italian cooking. Salty like the sea. Let's make it happen. So this pasta is penne. That's what usually is used for arrabbiata sauce. But to be honest, my favorite's bucatini, but I don't have any bucatini right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use the penne. And this is the finished product. All right, so this is the finished product here. I like to add fresh basil and a little extra parm. Now we're gonna try it. This is so good. And this is a little on the spicy side. So if you really don't like spice, I would only add maybe a half a tablespoon. But this is really good. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos.